2 states away. Joplin voters brave the lines for the chance to weigh in on who will lead America in 2021, and the world waits for U.S. election results.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Voters head to the polls today for one of the most anticipated presidential elections in recent history. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, Election Day 2020. We'll check in on voter turnout in both Joplin and Pittsburgh. But first, the latest on missing teen Leora Hardy, who's been found safe after disappearing nearly 7 weeks ago. The 14-year-old from Joplin was last seen September 17th. Her case received national attention when it appeared on A&E's Live Rescue. Last night around 11:30 p.m., the JPD was notified that Leora had been found in good health. Police say she turned herself in to a law enforcement agency in Wisconsin. Authorities are currently working to bring Leora back to Joplin, and the criminal investigation regarding her disappearance is still ongoing. We'll have more details tonight on the KOAM News at 5. And a heart-wrenching story out of Carthage, Missouri. A 1-year-old boy is dead after he was run over in a driveway yesterday afternoon. According to the Highway Patrol crash report, the child was run over after being underneath a car driven by a 19-year-old woman. The driver is being tested for alcohol as required by law. Well, long and grueling campaign reaches its climax today, but maybe not its end. While millions of voters have already cast a ballot for either President Trump or former Vice President Joe Biden, millions more are heading to the polls today. 5 voters in Dixville Notch, New Hampshire, kept their midnight tradition alive, casting the first in-person votes on Election Day. And President Trump is promising his supporters will show up at the polls today like a red wave. He called into Fox News this morning after holding rallies in 4 different swing states on Monday. And this morning, former Vice President Biden attended church with his wife and grandchildren. He'll spend Election Day in the swing state of Pennsylvania. And it's unclear if we'll know the winner tonight, as some states could take days to count all the ballots. Well, here in the 4 states, voting is underway at St. Paul's Methodist Church in Joplin, where hundreds of voters are working their way through a long line to have their voices heard. KOAM's Kate Kelly joins us there live.
Even though a lot of people have already voted absentee, the majority of voters in our area are showing up to the polls in person. And as you can see, the turnout is great. One poll worker told me that at 6 a.m. this morning, there was a line of about 150 people already waiting, and about 700 votes have been cast. It's taking about an hour and a half to get through this line, but voters say it's worth the wait.
With the pandemic, with the economy, I own 2 businesses here in town, so it's really important for me to get somebody that's going to get businesses back and get customers back, but do it safely.
Just wait. Just keep waiting and be sure and vote.
There's about 3,500 people in this precinct. Poll workers tell me they're expecting to see about 2,000 before the day is done. Polls close at 7. Of course, we'll be bringing you updates throughout the day. You can find the latest election results on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com.
Okay, Kelly, thank you so much for that report. Well, you couldn't ask for better weather for standing outside in line, and Michael Hayslip joins us with a first look at the forecast.
Almost historic in nature, Tanya, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But hey, as we've been doing all morning, let's open with a shot of Old Glory outside of Television City right there. Yes, if you do have to wait outside, no matter what your polling destination, if you're in Joplin, here's a live look from the Freeman Health System Sky Camera, where we sit at a very comfortable 66 degrees. Yeah. If you got to wait outside, it's a little bit breezy, coming in at 16 miles per hour, but our pressure remains steady and much improved from our temperatures of what we had yesterday, as we've already thrown up a 70 in Miami, 71 in Stockton, and 70 in Chanute. So, I mean, it's absolutely perfect throughout the entire Midwest. As a matter of fact, even from a national perspective, Mother Nature will not impede anybody from getting to the polls today. As far as our afternoon planner goes, going to top out in the low to mid 70s. Now, watch out for that windy weather there, because we've already picked up some gusts in excess of 20 miles per hour. And then as we work into tomorrow, extremely comfortable once again, way above average temperatures for our first full week of November. Now, Tanya, coming up here in just a little bit, I want to break down past election days that we've had in the 4 states, specifically for our general presidential elections, because there's a chance November 3rd, 2020 just might tie or even set a record that dates back to the 1960s. And I know you've got more election coverage headed our way with Jesse Irwin.
That's right. In Kansas, polls opened at 7 a.m. this morning. Jesse Irwin is at Church of Christ in Pittsburgh. And Jesse, what are the lines looking like there now?
Tanya, I was ready to tell you things had slowed down, but of course, as we start, the lunch rush, as we call it, comes in. So people are starting to make their way back in here. Earlier this morning, when the polls first opened, a line of 50 to 60 people were lined from the start of the door all the way through the parking lot. And at the same time, Crawford County Clerk Don Pyle tells us that, like many counties around the 4 states and the United States, an unprecedented number of mail-in ballots were requested for this election.
Mail-in, generally you have about 2,000 in a presidential election year, 2,000 to 2,500 mail-in ballots. We've had over 6,000 applied for, and we've gotten, I think it's a little north of 4,000 back already, and they're coming in, and we'll have several that'll come in even after Election Day.
Well, with the postmark deadline for mail-in ballots as late as 7 p.m. tonight here in Kansas, Pyle says that he expects to be processing these ballots throughout the rest of the week. Now, for now, we're just going to have to keep our eyes on the lines in this historic election, Tanya.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised that they got busier during the lunch hour, but it's probably going to stay that way most of the day, you think?
I think it could. It fluctuates, but I think especially as we get into 3, 4 o'clock, people might leave work early. Of course, there's laws in every one of the 4 states that allow people to leave work to vote. So I think if you're going to vote, now might be the right time here in Kansas.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Might be where I'm headed after I get off. All right, thank you so much, Jesse.
We'll see you here.
Well, remember, when you go to vote today, to leave your campaign apparel at home. Candidate hats, buttons, pins, and other material are not allowed near polling places, though the distances vary. In Kansas, that's 250 feet from the entrance. In Missouri, it's 25 feet from the building's outer door. And in Oklahoma, it's 300 feet from the ballot box. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, Eye on America.
Americans vote and the world watches. I'm Ian Lee with who people overseas want to see in the White House.
And later, get ready to kick your feet up and enjoy a soup that's satisfying to the last slurp. For U.S. election results, as the winner will shape future relations with other countries. CBS's Ian Lee is in London with what residents overseas think of the candidates.
The world is watching as Americans vote. Even people overseas feel they have a horse in this race, since presidents can change the course of history.
I love you, Trump! Israel!
President Trump enjoys a sky-high approval rating in Israel, with supporters hoping he gets 4 more years.
Trump is going to get reelected, and he is going to start his road to peace across the world.
Despite the president's unflattering description of African nations, hundreds are marching in Nigeria to support him. And in Russia, many fear a Joe Biden presidency. This resident of Moscow says Biden is too aggressive in his policies toward Russia. Support for the candidates really depends on the country and who they think will be best for their own national interest. In the UK, most believe Biden should be America's next president.
I think Biden will be the best for the UK economy to support us. I don't think Trump particularly cares about us all that much.
Well, I hope it's Biden because Trump's awful for the whole world, for America, for Brits, for everybody, really.
In France and Germany, President Trump also remains deeply unpopular. It's madness, this French woman says. Trump is completely crazy. Others, like this German man, don't care for either candidate. He says, I find it unacceptable that 2 men in their 70s represent the nation. It's time for a new beginning. Whoever wins, the result will impact not just the U.S., but the world. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Iran's supreme leader says whoever wins the U.S. presidency won't change relations with his country. Still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
Join me today as I share one of the best food buys in the market and show you how to turn it into a dish that'll make you feel all warm and cozy.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Going to work a little bit backwards. We're going to start with the 7-day forecast in particular because I want to point out this 73 that we anticipate as our daily high here on election day. So we can officially say the election heating up because get this, our magic number is going to be 75 degrees. You got to go back to, we're talking about general election dates here, not in particular November 3rd, general election dates, which of course the earliest you're going to have is November 2nd. The latest you're going to have is November 8th. But on 11/4/08 and on the 5th of November in 1996, topped out at 75 degrees. And those happen to be the only two general presidential election dates that date back to 1964 that have even eclipsed 70 degrees. Matter of fact, since that time, 62.4 degrees would be our average election day high. Now, the past two November 3rd elections, that's right, we've only had two since 1964. Look at that, 64 was up to 80 degrees, 1992 at 44 degrees, and we're already up to the magical number of 72 right now. So, 3 more degrees, all we need, and we're going to tie that magical 75 degree number a good 7 degrees above where we normally anticipate. And for the record book, our November 3rd record, 83 degrees dating back to 1978. We can get rid of this right here because we're going to be able to cruise these 70s all the way into next week. Look at that 9-day average high that we had. So I've eliminated that 10th day. This right here, only 53.3. We're actually going to be able to ride 70s from November 3rd all the way to November 9th. You got to go back to 2005 to find the last time that we had a stretch like that in November. 2005, it's been some 15 years. 72 degrees outside of Television City with Old Glory, showing the wind blowing in from the south-southwest right now. And we're seeing everything from 69 in Neosho, 70 in Parsons, and already up to 71 in Nevada. Now, nationally speaking, the contiguous 48, Mother Nature's not going to have any effect as far as people getting to the polls. Even the morning snow and rain that we saw in New England and the upper Northeast, that's dissipated. Everything out to the west, extremely dry. Two factors at play, once again, similar in nature to yesterday. We've got wind gusts coming in from the southwest, 20, 25 miles per hour, and extremely dry, so that's going to be that elevated fire threat. And get used to that phrase, because we're going to have that all the way into the weekend until we finally get some rain that doesn't show up until Sunday. A little bit of reflectivity picked up by the sweeping radar, that's all that is. Now the high pressure system, while it's dropping off to the southeast toward the Mississippi River, that low pressure out here by Wichita is just going to stall out, not going to have any bearing on our weather. Now, speaking of low pressure systems, we've got Hurricane Eta, Category 4, only the 4th time that a Category 4 has made landfall in Nicaragua in the month of November. And here's what gets interesting about this. As it becomes a low pressure system throughout Central America, it tries to redevelop as it heads towards Cuba. That's something we'll keep our eyes on through the course of next week. Back here in the 4 states, like I said, 75. That's our magic number. See if we can get there. Now, as far as future track, if you get in line by 7 o'clock, still delightful outside. Look at that, 60 degrees. No problems whatsoever. And we're waking up on Wednesday with temperatures hovering in the mid-50s. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, we're right back into the 70s. Like I said, Tanya, this is a stretch from November 3rd to the 9th that we have not experienced in 15 years as far as our temperatures go. But the other important factor is, with that elevated fire risk comes Sunday. We're going to be longing for a little bit of rain to make it just a little bit safer.
Yeah, with all these warm and sunny days, we're going to be drying up pretty fast.
Yeah,
be ready for it.
And also, too, the wind is not going to stop this week.
That's true. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Private Leonard Sill, Sr. in the U.S. Army. The soldier from Lincolnville, Oklahoma, was stationed out of Fort Riley. To Leonard Sill, we thank you, our 4-state hero. November won't always be this warm, and today Howard shares a recipe that'll keep you feeling warm and cozy all winter long. We're making a roasted harvest squash soup in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
If you've been to the market lately, it's pretty obvious that our fall produce is at its peak. And when it comes to a favorite, I would have to say that I love just about any kind of squash. There's a load of them, but let me show you a few. This is an acorn squash. It gets its name since it's shaped like an acorn. As you can see, the outside is dark green and it's got some patches of orange. On the inside, the flesh is a light creamy orange. These turban-shaped ones are known as buttercup squash. Once they're cut, they smell like a fragrant cucumber. As for their taste, they're very mild and sweeter than most other squash. Now for the granddaddy of them all, the butternut squash. They're easily recognized by their tan skin and their distinct bell shape. All of these are great to roast in our oven, saute in a skillet, or steam or boil on our stovetop. And if you love soup, you're going to love how warm and cozy a bowl of our roasted harvest squash soup makes you feel. To get the recipe, all you have to do is visit our website. Your taste buds will be glad you did. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a superb way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Oh, I love some butternut squash. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at koamnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4 state market prices.
Even if you're going to be lining up later tonight, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Waking up tomorrow in the 50s, 70s, all the way into the weekend. Here's Dow Quick with a look at what's coming up tonight at 5.
Yeah, a whole lot at 5. We're going to sit down with Joplin Police to learn more details about missing teen Leora Hardy, who was found safe in Wisconsin late last night. Plus, we take you to the polls in Joplin, where some people are waiting in lines for an hour and a half. And we look at voter turnout in Kansas and Oklahoma. Hope you join us for those stories and more on KOAM News at 5. Also, we'd like to invite you to watch special Campaign 2020 local coverage on our new digital streaming services, KOAM News Now Plus. You can find it on our website and now on your digitally connected TV through Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and on your phone. You just search KOAM. Tanya.
All right, real quickly, I want to wish Michael a happy birthday. This is a big day. All right.
Love you, guys.
I love you, Michael. Well, thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5.